I worry sometimes for Mr. Odenkirk because while he is still continuing to find success in the action genre after now having done at least the first Nobody and then doing its sequel, at the same time, the man did have a health scare when filming the last season of Better Call Saul. And to me, as he gets older, I just kind of think to myself, does he really have the chance to do more action films? Because if not, that's totally fine. I think he is allowed to take it easy on himself and just do what he can, but not push himself too hard. On the other hand, if he wants to continue doing it and he feels like he is inspired to keep on doing it, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to bat an eye. He is happy on what he does. And you know what? I recently heard that he actually wants to keep on doing it. And to that I say, all right, Mr. Odenkirk, don't think I'm not going to stop caring for you, because I always will. You will always be my Jimmy McGill.
Nothing to see here.
Normal is directed by Ben Wheatley with a screenplay by Derek Kolstad and a story by Derek Kolstad and Bob Odenkirk. The film stars Bob Odenkirk, Henry Winkler, and Lena Headey. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, a temporary small-town sheriff who uncovers a dark mystery after a local bank robbery. Bob Odenkirk is continuing to stick to the action route after doing the Nobody films, which, if you saw my review of them last year, I think they're fun, enjoyable movies for what they are. They don't ask for much other than just to be fun action flicks. To see Bob Odenkirk having done all of his tenure as Jimmy McGill slash Saul in the Breaking Bad universe, I'm glad that he's still able to find work as a really credible actor of his caliber. Teaming up again with Nobody and John Wick writer Derek Kolstad, this film looks to be another fun and action-packed time for audiences to enjoy. Derek Kolstad is now synonymous with action movies these days, and any sort of project he gets himself involved in, he just seems like he kind of understands what this genre is. And sure, so many people could say now at this point kind of generic, but to me, I still think it's kind of refreshing to see a guy like this really commit himself to a genre that he is really well versed in what he does. And I see that, and I can't wait to see what more this guy does in the future. Real quick, I have a confession to make. When I saw this a month ago at South by Southwest, it was a fun, enjoyable experience. Had some bumps in the road, but overall a nice, fun time to go to a film festival that was in Austin, Texas. And I managed to get to see this movie. And I was 2 out of 4 people left to go see this at the Alamo Drafthouse. That is how scared I was, but I was also off the high of adrenaline. So when I saw the movie, I thought it was great, and I really did think it was just a overall solid action movie. But again, when I went to see that, not only was I at a film festival, but I was getting off of a high, knowing like, oh my god, I finally made it into the screen. So I thought to myself, all right, what if I go see this again? This time, when it's now fully released, I can see it with a friend or two and get the feelings that I can now sort of process and feel like, all right, well, this is actually how I felt and still feel, or do I feel like I was just really just happy to see a movie at South by Southwest? Upon watching it this weekend with a friend of mine, those feelings stayed the same a month later. And I'm glad they do, because yeah, this is just a really fun, solid popcorn action flick that you can just get a kick out of. And it doesn't try to be anything bigger. It doesn't try to be grand in the scale. No, it's a small scale action movie that just knows what it is. Stays within itself and doesn't get lost in the big ideas that could have been. And it's an overall solid watch that it doesn't overstay its welcome. That's the most important thing. And that to me is a very good sign. Before discussing my few problems, my few issues that I have with this movie, here are the positives that I did see. The performances are fun. Everyone, but especially Odenkirk, just knows how to have a laugh and enjoy the ride, being committed to what this film is. And yeah, I'm mostly going to be talking about Bob Odenkirk because, man, this guy just can't do anything wrong with regards to the characters he plays. And sure, so many people could say, like, at this point, he's kind of giving off the same vibes that he did in Nobody. To me, Bob Odenkirk is just somebody who just leans into the absurdity of this and the exaggeration of what action movies tend to be. And his character, Ulysses, who is the temporary sheriff of the town of Normal, Minnesota, yeah, I think he just really fits the bill with how a stereotypical hero with a hard backstory tends to be. And it's kind of played for laughs. And you can really tell by how this movie goes about itself, but it's really because of Odenkirk and how he just kind of delivers it that just feels so bland, but in a very funny way. And I think that's what makes his performance stand out, is that it's bland, but to a fault. That's the point. It's supposed to feel like this really satirical way of how heroes in action movies kind of come off feeling, and that's what makes his performance just stand out even more. The direction is focused. Director Ben Wheatley keeps things seamless and knows when to ramp up for action sequences, allowing it to be steady. Ben Wheatley, I don't know that much about, although I did get to see him and writer Derek Kolstad, as well as Bob Odenkirk at the panel at South by Southwest. They seem like really lovely guys, and they seem like they are really much into their craft and what they do, and seem very generous for what they make. And Ben Wheatley really understood what this movie was. The moment he was reading Derek Kolstad's script, he was even talking about how, yeah, he just understood what this movie was supposed to be. And I feel that sort of, I wouldn't even say passion, but just understanding of what makes a action movie to be as entertaining as it is without ever having to go balls to the walls over the top. Like, this just feels like simple but still good fun action to where you can at least be entertained by what happens rather than just kind of rolling your eyes or just thinking to yourself like you need this movie to end. Because yeah, I think he keeps things going and he keeps things at a steady pace to where it doesn't feel like a movie gets lost within itself. He just knows how to keep the action feeling simple and as short as it is. And to me, that's always the best sign, when a director just understands the material that he is reading and it just works out in his favor, and how he's able to really compile all those elements from the script into this movie to be really successful. The action is exciting. Shootouts and fights feel well done as they happen, giving audiences something enjoyable throughout. When action does happen, it's really exciting. How it's all handled is pretty good. It's enjoyable to see how this movie really conveys the action in this violent but also very chaotic way that you just to yourself wouldn't expect a movie like this to kind of go that length. Of this caliber would just not be able to still be as rewarding to watch than if it was much more grand in its way. Hand-to-hand combat, especially when Bob Odenkirk gets involved, it's still impressive to see that this guy who's in his early 60s still being able to do the stuff like this that Keanu Reeves can easily do. But for somebody like Odenkirk to really still keep on doing the things that he does in movies like these, it's really impressive. And it's actually kind of inspiring to even some actors that are getting a little bit older, to show that you don't have to be the most muscular person. You could still be able to do all the cool stuff that action movies tend to really offer in the realm of entertainment. The cinematography is efficient. Cinematographer Armando Salas shoots a chaotic but consistent film that showcases the town of Normal and its action well enough, being more small scale than action movies are usually, or if not tend to be a lot of the times, much like I always keep on mentioning, big and has to be over the top zaniness. And to me, for this film, it doesn't need to be that. If it can just have these nice, cool shootouts, but still feel as if it is still watchable from an action lens, I think it can work. And Armando Salas, he does that really efficiently. He is able to also capture Normal in this kind of mundane kind of look that works in the movie's favor, because when you have a town that's like this, they tend to seem like they have to put in a lot extra effort to kind of hide how much of a budget that they have, to make it seem like no, this is still small scale. Like, no, this movie is definitely much more smaller scale than most other action movies are today, and it's done with so much care and put in all the hard work that was in here. It's showcased in the way that it should come off, and Armando Salas does that really well. The story is entertaining. Seeing this temporary sheriff discover the town's secret and fighting enemies off was a good time. Nothing massive, but nothing wrong with that. I was not expecting for a movie like this, where it has a sheriff, temporary one at best, investigating what's going on with this town in terms of how odd it is that they're gaining so much budget with regards to how they save up for it when it comes to equipment, and even people in the town just have these things in their possessions, and then this bank robbery happens and then everything unravels afterwards. Sure, it may not sound revolutionary, and it's not, but you know what, for an action movie of like this caliber and scale, I'm not going to really be angry at it because it knows what it is. I'm not asking for it to be revolutionary. I just asked for it to be at least enjoyable from beginning to end, and I got that. I got a story that, at the very least, was really kind of funny and really kind of leaning into the satirical way in which action movies kind of come off feeling. And that to me is a sign of how you handle a movie where you have a comedic actor being an action star at being effective as it is, but also still being fun. And to me, that's a good sign. The writing is funny. Writer Derek Kolstad leans into making this whole situation hilarious, leading to good comedic moments. Throughout this movie, there are just some funny moments in this movie that just make me laugh. And I was happy watching a movie where Bob Odenkirk is spouting out these lines, and you're thinking to yourself, should I take this guy seriously? Like, should I? But yet somehow you don't. Like, Ulysses is just one of those guys that you just are like, yeah, that's him. That's just how he acts. And it's awesome to see how Derek Kolstad was able to kind of lean into that kind of comedy edge to it than just kind of taking this all seriously. Because if it was serious, then yeah, no, it would definitely be a problem. But no, I think that there is a comedy aspect to this movie that when he was writing it, he wanted to make it feel as if it's not super serious in the way in which it goes about itself. It really is all about how ridiculous action movies can be with regards to how absurd the whole story goes about. The pacing runtime is effective. Scenes would feel simple and to the point. With a runtime of 1 hour and 31 minutes, it knows to stay within its boundaries. People, this is 90 minutes. For an action movie in this day and age, for as much as I like my John Wicks, I like my other action movies here and there, but I will take a simple 90-minute action movie. This was over that length. I would really have to question people that thought that this needed to be much longer. No, this movie knew exactly what it was the moment that they thought to themselves, yeah, that's just it. We don't need to go any further than that. We don't need to go to the 2 hour mark. We're now at this point where this is all we could do. That's okay. And to me, it doesn't waste anybody's time. It just gets straight to the point, gives you what you need, and knows when to bail out. And I like when a movie just understands itself rather than just having to be self indulgent and just keep on going further. And yes, I'm looking at certain action franchises of higher quality in terms of like its budget and all that stuff as being the culprit. The production is solid. It may be small scale, but the whole work from the crew, sets, and choreographers are felt throughout. They made this possible, and it is. It's important to note that movies like these are very hard to get the finances for. They even talked about it at South by Southwest and how this film was incredibly hard, and same with Nobody. How you could pitch this to studios and they would turn it down, and yet somehow, with Nobody, they got Universal to get this movie made, and with this, with Magnolia Pictures, they were able to get this movie made. Even when you have caliber talent behind it, it's always hard to even pitch movies to big studios. So the fact that they were able to find financing for both Nobody movies, but now with this movie, it's incredible to see a lot of that passion and excitement for the project just felt throughout, and you could just tell that everyone was just really having a good time and really just going along with what this whole process was, and knowing like, hey, we actually got to make this movie, and it may not be of the higher end of quality, but at the same time, we'll take the pride knowing like we managed to make this. While a great watch, don't get me wrong, it is. There are a few issues that keep it back from me from going any further than what it already is. So here are now my negatives. The villain is one dimensional. They just feel paper thin when they appear. Didn't need to be fleshed out in any way, but could have been at least fun to watch. And yeah, that's the best way I would describe it. I'm not going to go any further because then I kind of go into spoilers, but yeah, the villain, or rather villains if you want to say, but I think really villain in this movie, yeah, they just kind of come off as stereotypical, like one dimensional kind of characters that you would just feel like, all right, I mean, sure, but there was just nothing fun about what they are. They're just bad guys for the sake of being bad. That's it. I guess there's one explanation for a character in terms of why they do the thing they do, but at the same time, they're cut short, and so you just are like, well, so you're just kind of left thinking to yourself, all right, this is just kind of now one dimensional in how villains are rated in this movie, and to me, wish there could have been something at least funny or fun to have had with them. The narration is pointless. There's no really good reason why the main character explains the plot other than being exposition dumps, almost being pretty much distracting. And yeah, there's a reason, I guess you could say, why he's talking about the plot, but at the same time, it's just so that way they can give like exposition dump heavy moments, and it's between like him and his wife Ulysses. Bob Odenkirk's character, he's calling his wife and leaving messages, and there's really no point to them. They just, again, they really do feel like they just need to explain like backstory moments. These are moments that I just don't think were necessary. And I honestly think the movie could have been a little bit stronger if they had removed it from the script, and it wouldn't really change much. By the end, it was another well put outing for Odenkirk to be funny and to just kick ass. And that's really awesome to see him do. And I'm happy knowing that the guy can just still be able to do these kinds of movies. And if he wants to do them, by all means, I'm there to support him. Both hilarious and fun, Normal stays within its lane to be enjoyable, though its villain and narration are dampered. It's still enough to be a great action flick through and through. I would say that if for nothing else, if you just want a solid watch, this is definitely the movie for you. You just want to see Bob Odenkirk just still doing what he does. Yeah, this movie will satisfy you. I can't wait to see like what other action movie he wants to do next. I'd be curious to know. And still, I'm just glad that a movie like this, of this caliber, even if it's not high quality, can still get made in the year 2026, even if the odds are stacked against them. I'm going to give Normal an 8 out of 10. This movie I thought was pretty great, and I overall enjoyed what Ben Wheatley, Derek Kolstad, and Bob Odenkirk had to offer with this movie. And I'm just really impressed that for a smaller movie that I know is not getting enough attention, I know it won't, I'm happy to have gotten to see this movie at not just South by Southwest, but get to see it again, just to kind of confirm like my feelings and my thoughts with this. Because yeah, I could have changed my mind completely if I had not seen this again, but I'm just happy knowing that it all stayed the same when I rewatched it, and I just got a chance to see this movie a month early. I had a good time with it. So I will be soon doing a review for Michael. So yes, look forward to that review and other reviews coming soon.